Hi folks, I'm Huntsville criminal defense attorney Andrew Segal of Segal & Segal. Today's topic is what you need to know about domestic violence in the third degree in Huntsville, Alabama. So I want to talk about this crime, or actually this series of crimes, so that you can know a little bit more if you or somebody you love has been accused of this particular offense. First thing you need to know is that it's not a crime, but a series of crimes. To explain this, what I've done is I've taken a garbage can or a box, and as you can see, it is what it is. It's a box. And the reason I've done this is that domestic violence in the third degree, and actually domestic violence in general, is not one specific offense, but a category of offenses. And what they've done is they've said that domestic violence concerns a relationship or series of relationships. And when certain crimes are committed that occur within those types of relationships, they form a particular category of crimes. So domestic relationships under Alabama law include things like husband and wife, boyfriend and girlfriend, girlfriend and girlfriend, or boyfriend and boyfriend, and even roommates, brother, sister, cousins, people living under the same roof, a variety of circumstances where people are in some form of a domestic relationship that is recognized under Alabama law. And what happens is that when a criminal offense occurs between people in a recognized domestic relationship occurs, Alabama law says, oh, hey, some sort of a crime has occurred within a domestic relationship, and we're going to treat that differently. So if, forgive my fantastic artwork, but here we go. If Joe and Mo get into some sort of an altercation, and these are just two guys who met at a bar, and let's say they get into a fist fight, that's not a domestic violence crime. Goes over here. Whatever happens, happens. If it's an assault, if Joe punches Mo in the face, it'll go to court and be resolved. But if Joe and Mo are brothers living in the same house, it goes in the domestic violence category, and it gets treated differently. Now, of course, we do sometimes see brothers and fathers and sons and mothers and sisters, but more often what we see is boyfriends and girlfriends and brothers and sisters. And my artwork here is not going to be the best, and I hope you forgive my somewhat sexist rendering here, but I'm going to do the best I can, so forgive me. I'm going to make it, what should I make it? Joe and what did I say? It was Joe and Mo. I'm going to make it Joe and Flo, because that's the best I can come up with while the camera is rolling. I'm going to make Flo have, there we go. It is now Joe and Flo, who still are not getting along. Let's call them boyfriend and girlfriend, and something has gone wrong. The police come, and as almost inevitably is the case, one of them gets arrested. In most cases, it is usually Joe. And police come, and bam, they get arrested. Now what happens? The case goes to court, as is often the case. Flo says, hey, either it didn't happen the way the police said, or I don't want it prosecuted, or something like that. And what she's going to run into is a considerable amount of resistance on the part of the prosecution and on the part of the police for a variety of both legal and political reasons for them to dismiss. Most prosecution agencies have what's called a no-drop policy. That is an agreement or a policy saying, we're not going to dismiss these cases. Part of the politics of that is they're afraid that when Flo goes home after Joe gets out of jail, he says, you better go get that case dropped, or there's going to be some more of this for you. And that is sometimes true, sometimes not. But it is very hard to get a domestic violence case dropped because of the politics, and there is something called the battered woman syndrome, where there are women who they will repeatedly, in legitimate cases where they have been assaulted and they are victims, they will go and try to get a case dismissed. Of course, there are cases where guy really hasn't done anything wrong and a woman is abusing the system, and they feel bad about it and try to get it dismissed, and they don't get listened to either. So it does present some problems, and of course that's where guys like me come in, is to try to resolve those problems. But there's certain things that you should be aware of in domestic violence cases. One of the big things that you need to know is that they are treated differently from regular criminal cases. So let's talk about some of those unique features. First off, to prove a domestic violence case, the prosecutor has a bit of a different hill to climb than he would in a regular assault case. If my drawing was just, if Joe was just some guy in a bar who ran into Flo and they just didn't get along and something happened and it wasn't a domestic violence case and it erupted into, I don't know, a pushing match, the prosecutor would just have to prove that there was some unlawful pushing going on. And that would be the case. But since it's domestic violence, in addition to the unlawful pushing, of course he has to establish that there was a domestic violence relationship, a recognized one under Alabama law. And then he has to prove, as I said, that the underlying crime went on. So to reiterate that as easily as I can, if I go home and I'm mad because I think, oh gee, this video didn't come out very well, and I push my wife, the prosecutor has to prove A, that I'm in a relationship with my wife, which would be pretty easy to do, and B, that I actually pushed her. As opposed to if I go home and I see my neighbor who I think is annoying because he's mowing his lawn too loud and I go push him, it's not a domestic violence case, it's a different case. So you also need to be aware of that if a person is convicted of a domestic violence crime, the consequences are different. It's not the same as if I'm convicted of pushing my neighbor. And there's a variety of collateral, in other words, things that flow from a domestic violence case that a person needs to be aware of. Some of those things are that it might affect a security clearance, it can affect issues such as child custody, it can affect somebody's ability to have a pistol permit if that's something that's important to you. So maybe things that I'm not even thinking of, but it can affect somebody in a variety of ways. Obviously having any kind of a conviction is not good. My advice to anyone really on any kind of a crime, and certainly on a domestic violence crime, is you really want to talk to an attorney as quickly as you possibly can. If you can't afford a lawyer, then you need to talk to the public defender. If you can't afford an attorney, then you need to talk to retained counsel. If you're looking to hire an attorney, feel free to give us a call at Segal. Our number is 256-533-4529. Anytime you call any attorney, that conversation with that lawyer is privileged. That's by law. Lawyer can't go gabbing about whatever you say to them. And the other thing, at least with us, is your first consultation with us is free. We don't believe that you ought to have to pay to decide if you want to hire a lawyer. That's us. I don't know what other lawyers say. And I hope that this video has been informative and helpful. Thank you for watching.